Scorpio mentor said, "Trust me." I trusted the backup plan. Instead, Evelyn Reed thrived in the relentless churn of Chicago's financial district. The hum of the L train outside her Sterling Financial Group office on LaSalle Street, the sharp scent of coffee from the ground floor Pete's, the endless, gleaming glass and steel, it all fueled her. At 30 years old, Evelyn wasn't just good. She was exceptionally meticulous, almost obsessively so. Every spreadsheet she touched, every projection she modeled, every report she authored was a masterpiece of precision. She lived in a compact, well-kept apartment in Lincoln Park, a short walk from the lakefront, a daily reminder of the vast, open possibilities she chased in the urban jungle. Her days began before dawn, fueled by a single-minded ambition that bordered on devotion to her craft. Evenings often stretched past 8, the city lights painting a stark contrast to the quiet focus of her office, where the only sounds were the tap of her keyboard and the occasional distant siren. Her mentor, Alexander Thorne, or Alex as he preferred, was the architect of her ascent. A man in his late 40s, with a sharp, angular face, piercing blue eyes, and an aura of effortless command, Alex was the head of Sterling's Mergers and Acquisitions division. He moved with the quiet, predatory grace of a man who always knew 3 steps ahead. He was the quintessential Scorpio, intense, charismatic, demanding, and utterly loyal to his own agenda. He had plucked Evelyn from a sea of ambitious analysts 3 years prior, recognizing a spark of raw talent and an unwavering work ethic. He had taught her the intricate dance of high-stakes finance, the art of negotiation, and the unforgiving logic of the market. "Trust me, Evelyn," he'd often say, his voice a low rumble. "I'll get you where you need to be. Just follow my lead and never question the vision." And Evelyn, captivated by his promises and the palpable thrill of working alongside him, had trusted implicitly. Their current endeavor was the jewel in Alex's crown: the acquisition of Veridian Dynamics, a burgeoning tech firm based in Austin, Texas, known for its innovative AI-driven data analytics. The deal was complex, fraught with sensitive financial disclosures and delicate valuations. Alex had designated Evelyn as his right hand, entrusting her with the core due diligence, the deep dive into Veridian's books, its intellectual property, and its market potential. She spent weeks immersed in data rooms, her fingers flying across keyboards, her brain processing gigabytes of financial statements, patent applications, and growth projections. She was tasked with developing the valuation models that would determine Sterling's final offer. It was a career-defining moment, a crucible, and Evelyn felt the immense pressure, but also an intoxicating sense of purpose. She worked tirelessly, sending Alex daily updates, meticulously documenting every finding, every discrepancy, every calculation. It was her standard operating procedure, a habit ingrained since her first internship. Save everything, archive everything, back up everything, always. Not out of distrust, but out of a professional's instinct for thoroughness, a quiet insurance policy against the chaos of high-stakes corporate life. Every significant email, every revised document, every set of instructions from Alex, she'd CC'd to a highly secure, encrypted personal cloud storage account, separate from Sterling's network. A digital breadcrumb trail, just in case. The deal closed with a triumphant flourish. Alex, bathed in the glow of success, praised Evelyn publicly at the celebratory dinner at the signature room at the 95th, overlooking the glittering Chicago skyline. Evelyn's dedication was instrumental, he announced, raising a glass. She's the future of this firm. Evelyn felt a surge of pride, a genuine warmth spreading through her chest. The long hours, the sacrifices, they had all been worth it. She was on the cusp of the promotion Alex had promised, the significant bonus that would allow her to finally put a down payment on a small condo. The world, it seemed, was finally opening up. But the opening was not what she expected. 2 months later, the first tremor hit. A cryptic article appeared in the Wall Street Journal, hinting at questionable valuation metrics in a recent major tech acquisition by a prominent Chicago investment bank. Evelyn's stomach knotted. Then came the emails, an internal memo announcing an unforeseen internal review of the Veridian deal, followed by a summons to Alex's office. His demeanor had shifted. The usual charming intensity was replaced by a cold, steely gaze. "Evelyn," he began, his voice devoid of its usual warmth, "there's a problem. A serious problem." He laid out the accusations. The Veridian valuation had been grossly inflated. A clear case of fraudulent misrepresentation designed to push through a deal that benefited a few key players at Sterling's expense. And all fingers, he explained with a chilling calm, pointed to her. "They're saying you manipulated the numbers, Evelyn, that you were overzealous, that you went rogue to impress me." He showed her internal communications, emails seemingly from her, spreadsheets bearing her digital signature, all subtly altered, all pointing to her as the sole perpetrator. He had, with surgical precision, taken her meticulously prepared initial drafts, tweaked the sensitive figures, and then presented them as her final work, ensuring his own digital footprints were obscured. "I trusted you, Evelyn," he said, his voice laced with feigned sorrow. "I gave you free rein. How could you do this?" The betrayal hit her like a physical blow. Her mind reeled. It couldn't be. She remembered the original figures, the cautious projections, the warning flags she'd raised to Alex about some of Veridian's more speculative revenue streams. But now, here was the proof, neatly laid out, damning her. Alex had created a narrative so believable, so expertly woven, that it felt impossible to untangle. He claimed he had simply reviewed her final work, trusting her expertise, signing off on what he believed was her honest assessment. He had, with the ruthlessness of a true predator, sacrificed her to save himself. The firm immediately suspended her, then fired her, citing gross professional misconduct. The federal investigation began almost instantly, targeting her. Her name, once whispered with admiration, was now dragged through the mud of financial blogs and news headlines. Junior analyst accused of orchestrating multi-million-dollar fraud. Her photo, a stern professional headshot, was plastered everywhere, branding her a corporate criminal. Her friends, once so supportive, began to distance themselves. Calls went unanswered. Invitations stopped. Her parents, living in a quiet suburb of Milwaukee, were distraught, their daughter's promising career shattered, her future uncertain, possibly even prison. Evelyn retreated to her apartment, the vibrant city outside becoming a blur of indifferent faces. The familiar hum of the L now sounded like a relentless, mocking drone. Despair was a cold, suffocating blanket, threatening to pull her under. She barely ate, barely slept, the betrayal a constant, burning ache in her chest. The injustice was a visceral wound. In the depths of her despondency, a flicker ignited. It was a small, insistent thought, born from habit, not hope. Her backup plan, her meticulous, almost obsessive archiving. She hadn't just saved the company files. She had saved her files, her personal records of every instruction, every original draft, every communication sent and received, time-stamped, unadulterated. Her hands trembled as she powered on her personal laptop, accessing her encrypted cloud storage. Folder after folder, meticulously organized, stretching back years. She navigated to the Veridian project, opening files she hadn't looked at since the deal closed. There they were. Her original valuation models, conservative and prudent. Her emails to Alex, querying specific, overly optimistic figures he had later insisted be included. The early drafts of reports, before his suggestions, had morphed them into something she barely recognized. The key was a series of encrypted emails from Alex, sent directly to her personal email, a channel he occasionally used for what he called off-the-record strategizing. In these emails, he had incrementally pushed for higher valuations, subtly altered the risk assessments, and, most damningly, instructed her to run specific, highly optimistic scenarios that defied market reality, always couched as exploring all possibilities. He thought they were untraceable, a private channel, but she had forwarded them to her secure archive, an unthinking act of record-keeping. The discrepancies were glaring, undeniable. The firm's proof against her was a carefully constructed house of cards built on her own work, twisted and manipulated. Alex hadn't just scapegoated her. He had architected her downfall using her own diligence against her. His Scorpio mind, so adept at strategy, had overlooked her most fundamental, ingrained habit, her absolute need for verifiable truth. The realization was a jolt of pure adrenaline, replacing despair with a cold, righteous fury. She had the truth. But truth, she knew, was a fragile thing against power and influence. She couldn't go back to the federal investigators who had already condemned her. She needed a different path, an independent path. She remembered Sarah Chen, a formidable white-collar defense attorney based in New York City, whose reputation for taking on impossible cases and dismantling corporate conspiracies preceded her. Sarah, a sharp, no-nonsense woman with a reputation for merciless precision, had once given a guest lecture at Evelyn's alma mater. Evelyn reached out, a desperate plea for help, attaching a meticulously organized digital package of her uncorrupted files. Sarah Chen responded with a single, succinct email, "Fly to New York, tomorrow." The meeting with Sarah Chen was intense. Evelyn laid out her story, presenting the two sets of files, Sterling's manipulated versions and her own untainted originals. Sarah, a woman whose eyes missed nothing, sifted through the evidence with a predatory focus. "He's good," Sarah admitted, tapping a finger on a screen displaying Alex's doctored reports. "He covered his tracks well, but you, Evelyn, you're better. Your backup plan is an unassailable digital fortress." Sarah recognized the genius in Evelyn's unassuming meticulousness. The encrypted personal cloud, the time-stamped versions, the subtle differences in wording in Alex's private emails versus his official directives. It all painted a clear picture of manipulation. Sarah saw the threads Alex thought were invisible, now glaringly obvious under the forensic light Evelyn had provided. They spent weeks building the counter case. They didn't just have evidence. They had an entire chronology, a parallel universe of data showing Alex's systematic deception. They identified the shell corporations in the Cayman Islands, the offshore accounts, the network of co-conspirators Alex had used to funnel illicit profits from the inflated Veridian deal. They tracked the anonymous tips that had initially triggered the investigation tips designed by Alex to point squarely at Evelyn. Sarah, with Evelyn's detailed records, meticulously traced the flow of funds, the suspicious stock options purchased by Alex's cronies just before the merger announcement, the private communications that solidified Alex's culpability. Evelyn, empowered by Sarah's belief in her, became an active participant in her own defense, a co-investigator, providing insights into the corporate culture and the subtle power dynamics at Sterling that only an insider would know. Their strategy was not to go through official channels at first. Alex Thorne was too entrenched, too powerful. Instead, Sarah contacted Mike Gallagher, a senior investigative journalist for Bloomberg News, known for his tenacious reporting on financial fraud. Mike, a seasoned veteran with a nose for systemic corruption, saw the explosive potential in Evelyn's story. A corporate titan using and then destroying a talented, junior female analyst, it was tailor-made for a headline. Sarah and Evelyn presented Mike with a carefully curated package of evidence, enough to spark an independent investigation, but holding back the full depth of their arsenal. The article dropped like a bomb. Whistleblower or scapegoat? The enigma of the Sterling Financial Group's Veridian acquisition. It didn't explicitly name Alex Thorne as the perpetrator yet, but it meticulously detailed the inconsistencies in the Veridian valuation, the questionable timeline of internal communications, and the abrupt dismissal of a key analyst. It questioned the initial focus of the federal investigation, subtly suggesting a deeper, more sinister orchestration. The article, driven by Evelyn's meticulously preserved data, created a media firestorm. Sterling Financial's stock plummeted, wiping billions off its market cap. Shareholder lawsuits piled up. The SEC and the Department of Justice, now facing immense public pressure, were forced to reopen their investigation, this time with a broader scope. Alex Thorne, blindsided by the independent investigation, initially tried to dismiss the article as sensationalist journalism. But the cracks in his carefully constructed facade began to show. Sarah and Evelyn, through Mike Gallagher, leaked more damning evidence, including Alex's encrypted emails with Evelyn and his co-conspirators, his offshore holdings, and the timeline of his stock trades. The backup plan became a torrent of undeniable proof. The web Alex had woven, so intricate and deceptive, now strangled him. His co-conspirators, seeing the writing on the wall, began to turn on him, offering testimony in exchange for leniency. The final blow came in the form of a sweeping federal indictment, not against Evelyn, but against Alex Thorne and his inner circle, charging them with multiple counts of securities fraud, wire fraud, and conspiracy. The same federal investigators who had once branded Evelyn a criminal now lauded her for her courageous cooperation, a bitter irony she did not miss. Alex Thorne was arrested, his once imposing figure now appearing diminished, his sharp eyes clouded with defeat. The once unquestioned leader of Sterling's and a division was paraded in front of cameras, his face a mask of simmering rage and disbelief. His empire, built on deceit and ambition, crumbled. His reputation, his career, his freedom, all gone. Evelyn was cleared. Her name was formally exonerated, the articles that once smeared her now replaced by ones praising her integrity and meticulousness. But the corporate world, though quick to clear her name, wasn't quite ready to welcome her back with open arms. The whispers lingered, the shadow of scandal, even as a victim, a stain on her record. She had won, but at a cost. The weight of revenge, though satisfying, was also heavy, leaving an indelible mark. The betrayal had taught her a harsh lesson about trust and power. She didn't return to the cutthroat environment of LaSalle Street. Instead, Evelyn moved to a quieter neighborhood in Chicago, Logan Square, and opened her own boutique consulting firm, Reed Analytics. She specialized in corporate due diligence and fraud prevention, ironically using the very skills that had almost led to her downfall, now honed to an even sharper edge. Her clients were smaller, ethical firms, eager for her unparalleled precision and her hard-won wisdom. She carried the scars of her battle, the memory of Alex Thorne's betrayal etched deeply, but also the strength of knowing she had stood her ground, fought for her truth, and emerged victorious. Her backup plan, born of professional discipline, had become her salvation, a testament to the quiet power of meticulousness in a world of grand deceptions. She had trusted herself, and that, in the end, had made all the difference.